Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And okay. And not muted and videos. Okay, very good. So right now, just Bob and Toby are here online. Nice to see you both.
Hi.
The other two are not. We have Chuck Walbridge here in the SPC. That's who I'm giving this.
The other two people aren't here this time?
Huh?
Did you say the other two people are not coming this time?
No,
Not
I just
joining?
said I don't see him.
Oh. I don't see him either.
Interesting. Okay. Huh? Yeah, true. That could be any place in the world. Okay. So let's get started as we only have an hour. And thanks for sending the email with the questions. So we'll start with those and see where we get. Right. So it's true. Our effort right now is to clarify the distinction between the Svatantrika view and the Prasangika view. And what is the difference between the Prasanga view of conventional reality and the Svatantrika view of conventional reality? As I understand it, Svatantrika would say that there is something coming from the object itself that is of a permanent nature. So what would that be? We are If we're sitting at the table with a bowl of cantaloupe, the Prasangika view would be nothing whatsoever is coming from the object or any other place that would make the object an inherently existing, essentially existing phenomena. True. If the Svatantrika view is that there is something inherent in the object that makes the object truly existing, what is that? Well, it's inherent existence on the conventional level. As I understand this Svatantrika view, there is something coming from the object itself. What would that be? But I think that the Svatantrika view would be that they do recognize that permanent views arising from causes and conditions. Okay. So of course, and I like this comment. Could you just explain it in plain English without going through all of these, going through the translation of Lama Tsongkhapa's explanation, in which he is quoting Chandrakirti, who gives his explanation for Svatantrika's view. And unfortunately, yeah, it's without going through that, it's a little difficult to identify this Tantric view, but we'll try to do something. But there's definitely, from the Prasangika point of view, the Svatantrika view has a contradiction within it. Okay, because the Svatantrika do assert that there is no ultimate existence and there is no true existence. Okay, so when they subject the conventional object to an ultimate analysis, they find a mere emptiness of ultimate existence, okay, and true existence. But at the same time, they do assert a inherent existence on the conventional level, okay? And Prasangika says that's a contradiction, okay? And the Svatantrika, they say that objects are posited through the force of appearing to a non-defective consciousness. Okay, so they are designated by a non-defective consciousness, but they have to appear. Okay, so they appear to a non-defective consciousness, and then they are designated. So there, when it comes down to it, there is something that from the object side that requires a particular designation by that consciousness, the non-defective consciousness, something. And of course, Prasangika will say that we designate these objects just through the force of convention or custom. What we have become accustomed to through the use of language like that, then we designate things like a bowl of cantaloupe. We have learned to do that. It's not as if there is something in that bowl of cantaloupe that requires the mind to designate it as a bowl of cantaloupe. Okay? So and so this comes out in when Bhavaviveka's criticism of Buddha Palita, and then Chandakirti defends Buddha Palita and then criticizes Bhavaviveka. And Bhavaviveka never said that objects inherently exist. He never said that, okay? But what he did say was that when you're trying to prove something to somebody, there has to be an agreement on the elements of the proof. And so, as I mentioned last week, the elements of a proof are the subject, the predicate that one is trying to prove as being a quality of that subject, and the reason that is the actual proof of why there is a connection between the subject and the predicate. And that reason has to have what they refer to as the three modes or the three criteria, that the reason also has to be a property of the subject, and that there are the two, that there's a relationship between the reason and the predicate. There's that relationship is also stated as a pervasion, that whatever is the reason is also the predicate, and whatever is not the predicate is also the reason. Now, Bhavaviveka, in his presentation of why this autonomous syllogism is necessary, and he criticizes Buddha Palita for not using it. He talks about why both that he talks about problems that can arise when you're using a syllogism to prove something. And the main thing that I'm referring to is he says that, you know, if both parties do not agree that the subject is established by valid cognition, then you can never prove that the predicate is a quality of that subject, because you'll be both talking about two different things. And so that's what he says. And he says the same thing. If the predicate is not established by valid cognition, then you're talking about nothing. There's no agreement. If the reason is not established by valid cognition by both parties, then there'll be no way for one party to communicate and prove their point to the other party. So those are things that he says. I'll get to you in a moment, Bob. But then what he says in his critique of Buddhapalita, he says that in the argument regarding production, right? There's Nagarjuna said that there is no production from self, no production from other, no production from both self and other, and no production from without a cause. Okay, so in dealing with that, you would take something as an example, like the eye sense power. And he says, so you have to use a syllogism, but it needs to be a what do they call it? An autonomous syllogism. And an autonomous syllogism is that both parties have established the elements of that syllogism in the same way. Okay, so when you're dealing with somebody who believes that objects exist in their own right, okay, through the power of their own being, through objects existing in their own right, objectively existing, then that person is using what they refer to as a valid cognition that is unmistaken with respect to the subject, such as the eye sense power, unmistaken. And Bhavaviveka agrees with that. But how can he agree with that? That's what Chandrakirti is saying. How can you agree with that? Because for the Prasangika, the valid cognition of the valid cognition of a conventional object is mistaken. It's mistaken with respect to that object appearing to inherently exist. Okay? So the only valid cognition that is unmistaken is the wisdom of meditative equipoise directly realizing emptiness. And for that equipoise wisdom, the object exists exactly as it appears. But the only object that equipoise wisdom perceives is emptiness. So that unmistaken valid cognition doesn't perceive eye sense faculty, doesn't perceive it. It only perceives emptiness. So from the Prasangika point of view, Chandrakirti's point of view, the subject cannot be perceived in the same way that the believer in true existence and ultimate existence, the way that person perceives the subject. And therefore, you cannot prove you cannot prove that the eye sense power is empty of production from self, from other, from both, and without a cause. You can't do it. And the only way that you can do it is with consequences that use the other party's assertions to put them in a two-horn dilemma, as I explained last week. Or you can use also syllogisms, but but syllogisms that are based upon the other party's view and not the Madhyamika's view, who's trying to prove emptiness to them. Okay, Bob, you had a question.
The Svatantrika view what I don't understand and is something like this. If the Svatantrika view is that conventional objects they're truly existing.
They don't say that they're truly existing. They say that they inherently exist.
What's the difference between inherently existing and truly existing?
From the Svatantrika's point of view, a truly existing object is an object that exists without being posited through appearing to a non-defective consciousness. From a Prasangika point of view, there's no difference between true existence and inherent existence.
Can you repeat slowly this one, the Svatantrika?
The Svatantrika's view of true existence is that which exists without being posited through appearing to a non-defective consciousness.
That which exists not being posited to
through appearing to a non-defective consciousness.
I just, what I can't understand is a accurately perceiving consciousness from the perspective of emptiness would not see anything inherently or truly existing in anything.
So that consciousness you're talking about is a wisdom of meditative equipoise, perceiving emptiness, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
and Svatantrika would also agree that the only object that wisdom consciousness perceives is emptiness. They call it emptiness of true existence or emptiness of ultimate existence, but it's nonetheless a non-affirming negative, right?
I understand.
Non-affirming negative, a mere absence.
What I don't understand is how can they posit something being whatever, inherently, whatever their term would be, because my is like a sieve, but when they're saying something is existing, whatsoever, truly from its own side, let's say we're talking about the bowl of cantaloupe. What is it that they're saying is existing in that way?
The bowl of cantaloupe. The bowl of cantaloupe is posited as a bowl of cantaloupe through the power of its appearing to a non-defective consciousness. But there is something about that object that that distinguishes it from all other objects, and the positing or the designating it of the bowl of cantaloupe is depending upon that characteristic, which is within the basis of designation of that bowl of cantaloupe.
Okay, so really what we're doing is we're taking that bowl of cantaloupe and affixing, I would say, a label to it, which some Prasangika may say we're imputing that on the basis of the whatever the characteristics that fit cantaloupe, but it's a mere imputation. Whereas, if I'm understanding, the Svatantrika would say it's more than just a mere imputation. It's something within the inherent nature of the cantaloupe itself.
Yeah, within the inherent, it exists within the basis of designation. Okay, something, and it appears to our consciousness, our everyday consciousness. Objects appear that way. They appear as if there is the identity of the object seems to come from the basis of designation, right?
Yeah.
So they're assenting that appearance is not a false appearance. But at the same time, they understand that if you subject that to an ultimate analysis, you won't be able to find it.
Okay, so the two of them sit down at a table and look at each other, and they can't even talk.
The what?
They sit down at a table to debate, but they can't even really talk because they have a very fundamental disagreement, which prevents them from entering into debate. Right?
No, you could still debate, like a Prasangika could debate with a Svatantrika by using the Svatantrika tenets and a consequence and showing how they are contradictory. It's only the autonomous syllogism that both sides have to agree that the elements of the syllogism are established in the same way.
Okay. It's sort of beyond my understanding or ability to understand, even though I understand it's not, I'm just not understanding. But I mean, well, I've said this before, I don't see the necessity of really understanding that viewpoint, this Svatantrika viewpoint, in terms of helping us to reach the state of more than just an inferential understanding of emptiness.
Mm-hmm. Well, even the inferential understanding of emptiness is subtle.
Yeah, because
so yeah, the Prasangika is going to say that the object exists through the force of designation, and designation is something that is the validity of it is something that is established through the force of the customary use of language, and it's that the basis of designation does not have the identity at all within it. The basis of designation, the object that is being designated, comes into existence through merely the designation, and that designation is a conceptual process, right? So it just exists in the mind, except that through the customary use of language, these objects are through our custom, through our custom, they are not just in the mind, they're out there. But being out there is not something that can be established by analysis. It is merely through the force of what we have become accustomed to.
I can say of any single object that we can think of, there is a conventional view and the view from a person that realizes or has some realization of emptiness. And then you get into what non-affirming negation and things like that. That's something I understand. That's all. I don't want to screw up your presentation.
It's okay. It's a discussion group.
Here's the problem I have. It seems like I'm the only one that's asking the questions. There are other people present that don't seem to ask questions, and I don't want to be,
Okay.
whatever. I don't want to be the person that the sore in everybody's ass or whatever, constantly asking questions when I just assume everybody has questions. Maybe they're embarrassed to ask them. Except for Chuck. Chuck Walbridge won't be, but Okay.
Here's your setting mantra.
Oh
yeah, Amara Patsanadi.
Well, at least he's got the appropriate mantra for this.
Right. Yeah. So what it comes down to, and this debate is the debate. Well, the debate. This whole argument of like, what's his name? Bhava Viveka's criticism of Buddhapalita, Chandakirti's defense of Buddhapalita, and then Chandakirti's criticism of Bhava Viveka. That is all in Hopkins' Wisdom of Emptiness.
Meditation on emptiness.
What?
Meditation on emptiness.
Yeah, that's it. Meditation on Emptiness. It's all in there. There's 3 chapters. There's that are exactly as I said, and it's interesting that a lot of the criticism of Bhava Viveka by Chandakirti is his use of logic. He disagrees with a lot of Bhava Viveka's points that he was when he was criticizing Buddhapalita, and it's interesting because Chandakirti is this it demonstrates his own scholarship, and so Hopkins translates various sections from Chandakirti's work, and he also includes descriptions of those references and the oral transmission that he had received from his main teacher, who was a former abbot of Lower Tantra College, when he was creating this his PhD dissertation at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. So it's quite interesting. And I only read those chapters just this last week, because although I've had the what was it? There was the university microfilms. I had the university microfilm printout of his dissertation a long time ago. And then
Yeah, the two volumes. Those were
then it
two volumes.
eventually became, published by Wisdom. And then I replaced the publication with Wisdom's publication. And I'd read all these other parts of it, but I found that whole section very difficult. But I found it was more easy to read this time, although not completely, but it's still, I can recommend it to you. And you can get some sense of the level of scholarship that Chandrakirti had.
Well, I have all those books here, including the original PhD thesis. So that was all that was available when kind of we
Yeah, it was
started.
university microfilms that you could get it from in those days. So yeah, so the main point then is that Chandrakirti believed that Bhava Viveka did not have the correct view of the object to be negated in the proof of emptiness, and Lama Tsongkhapa agreed with him. And so in this insight chapter of the great exposition of the stages of the path to enlightenment, he explains all of that from that point of view. And and when I studied this stuff, like under Geshe Techuk, it just came down to that Svatantrika believed that you had to impute something, but you couldn't. But the object that you impute, there had to be something existing from the basis of designation that justified that designation. So whereas the Prasangika say that the only justification is the conventional use of language, which could also be translated as the customary use of language, rather than there being some subtle essence in the basis of designation that requires you to designate in a certain way. Yes, Toby.
Well, it has to be able to function in the way that you,
It has to be able to function.
and
No doubt
that's
about
the thing that you're designating it.
Yes, that's
So
true.
isn't that something coming from it?
Well, that it's certainly in the basis of designation has to be able to perform such a function, but the it doesn't come into existence until you designate it. And then the it acquires all of its unique characteristics from the basis of designation, right? Like,
No, no, it still seems to me that something, I mean, I kind of agree with this Vatantrika view in a way. I mean, it seems like there has to be something from the object side. There's something from the object, from the basis, that makes it different from something else and allows it to function in a certain way so you can designate it in the way you do.
right. Well, certainly well, let's take the classic example of the rope that is designated as a snake.
Right.
Okay? So there's nothing about a rope that is a snake, okay? But if the lighting is not so good, the shape of the rope and maybe the stripes that are on it,
Mhm,
that is partially hidden by tall grass
mhm,
can cause a person to designate snake and they get afraid.
mhm.
Okay. But in fact, there's nothing in the rope that justifies that. It's just a mistake, a
Right,
mistaken thing. And then when we come to the actual, the correct designation of the snake,
right.
then you'll also find that, the skin is not the snake, the tail is not the snake, the
Right.
head is not the snake, all of that. None of those are the snake. So there's nothing there from the object side that is the snake. But without the appropriate basis of designation, then if you designate an object, you're making a mistake. But that's all done through the force of mere convention, of mere customary use of language. Somebody says, like that misidentification of a snake happened to me once. I was I was in near where Geshe Rapton lived in Dharamsala, and I was with Tubten, Steve Pearl, and we were walking along, and I saw something in the grass, and I thought it was a snake, and I jumped out of the way, and then I saw it was just a colored piece of cord that was, wrapped around. And there was this other guy that we knew, and he was also studying at the library of Tibetan Works and Archives, and he saw me jumping. He says, "What happened?" I said, "Oh, I thought I saw a snake. Instead, it was a cord." And he says, "Oh, I better look out for horned rabbits." Without missing a beat, he said that. I last saw him at the Geshe. Oh, now I forget his name. Geshe. Um, the Geshe who we all know and have the center in Long Beach,
Well,
Geshe,
Geshe Yeltsin.
Nelson
Geshe Yeltsin. Before he was in Long Beach, he was
London,
he was where?
in London or England
No,
somewhere.
he
No,
wasn't.
no, he was in St. Andrew's
Oh, I
Place.
see. You're in Los
And
Angeles.
Yeah, he was
yeah,
in Los Angeles. The last center that he had in
Yeah,
Los
yeah,
Angeles,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think the last one.
there was La Cienega Place,
And
St.
and the
Andrews.
guy who said, I have to look out for horned rabbits. His name was Michael, but I forget his name, and he was
Oh,
from
Michael
England.
Parrott.
Yes, Michael Parrott. That's the guy.
Yeah,
Michael Parrott. I'll have to keep my eyes open for horned rabbits.
for a horned parrot.
Right. So it's like that. So for a moment, Toby, you
Yeah,
could understand a bit of this Photantrika thing that, there has to
I
be
do
something to
understand it,
justify.
and I totally, I'm not sure that I really think it's been disputed well enough.
Right.
I
Yeah,
I
well,
just think that, if it functions, I mean, there's a reason why there's a difference between things. There's something in that basis that makes it different that's
it's
coming
not just,
from it.
it's not just one thing. There could be more than one thing that justifies, but it's not the identity of the object
Hmm.
that is in the basis of designation, according to the Prasangika. The
Hmm.
identity is merely imputed on the basis of designation, and we learn how to impute objects.
Right.
And so if the identity existed from the side of the object, it would be easy to identify objects. They would just have to appear to your mind, and then you would know what they are, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So,
So it
but
just
at the
has to
same
be
time,
a valid designation on a valid basis.
yeah, you have to have and so we learn that through the customary use of speech, which we learn. Yeah, so when I was a kid, I used to go to my grandparents' farm, especially in the summertime, and then I would help, in quotation marks, help a local farmer who rented the land that my grandparents owned. And so I would always like to help him out and stuff. And so I was underneath a combine with him, and he's trying to fix it. And he says, he points to his toolbox and he says, "Pass me that machine." And of course, he had this accent. He was from, central New York, and he had this accent that sometimes I could not and I was from the big city of Rochester. And I couldn't, oftentimes, and I'm thinking, machine? What machine? Well, what he was eventually talking about was a screwdriver. And it's true that a screwdriver is a simple machine.
Yeah.
I think he was just having so much fun with me. But that's, it's, you learn, yeah, there's so many objects in the toolbox that somebody had to tell you what their names were and to be able to differentiate, like a wrench from a adjustable wrench and,
Yeah,
all of
that's
that.
right.
And it's not obvious. Somebody has to tell you.
Yeah, but when they tell you, then you think, oh,
Then you
that
know.
is that thing.
Then you know. But that's through the force of custom, of convention. It's not
But
through the
you don't
force of
think that
something in
when
the
you
object.
learn it.
Huh?
You don't think that way when you learn those things, what those
Of
things.
course not. That's why we're still in samsara, Tubten.
Well, who knows? Who's in samsara and who's not?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the whole thing. We're believing that, an
Yeah,
illusion actually exists.
yeah,
And
yeah,
because we believe that it exists, then we become attached to it.
yeah,
Somebody prevents us from holding on to it, become angry, and then
right?
we act on the basis of that attachment or anger. But all those actions come from a basic ignorance of how things actually exist. And then we become attached, and especially to ourselves. We become so attached to this image of
Yes.
ourselves. And
Yeah.
then at the time of death, our mind is grasping for its continued existence, doesn't want to let it go. And that becomes the inspiration to create another thing based upon some action that we've done in the past that gives us a strong sense of our identity.
So that's the Prasangika point of view.
Yes,
So is this Vatantrika point of view of just, it must be just slightly different from that then?
that's what they say. It's just a slight difference. They're saying, like you were saying, there must be something in that object that justifies
It's,
the designation,
yeah,
the positing,
yeah,
and although there was something about that screwdriver that identifies it as a screwdriver and not as a wrench. Right?
yes, yes,
So, but once you learn that, it's not that the screwdriver itself designates or this causes you to designate screwdriver. Somebody else who knows the language causes you to identify that object as a screwdriver.
mhm. Yeah, but if the object wasn't different from the wrench, you couldn't describe it that way either.
True. There would
But-
just be two wrenches.
But
Yeah,
all you're talking about is conventional existence. I mean, we have to be able to communicate, and we have to be able to communicate the difference between a screwdriver and a wrench. But we all understand that none of it is truly existing, even though we do perceive it to be
Yeah,
true.
go ahead.
Yeah, we just see everything as truly existing.
Yeah, we do. But it all appears to be a true existence. We don't necessarily grasp them as true existence because we're not always thinking with the conception grasping a true existence. But nonetheless, objects are appearing to our perceptions as truly existent, like that. And the thing is that even Lama Tsongkhapa says that it's a difficult point, but it's a test of whether you understand emptiness or not. If you can see the non-contradictory nature between the emptiness of inherent existence and conventional phenomena. Because while you assert emptiness of inherent existence, you have to be able to also assert the Four Noble Truths. You have to be able to assert the possibility of enlightenment. You have to be able to assert the three jewels. You have to be able to assert the law of karma without contradicting the emptiness of inherent existence and without the emptiness of inherent existence contradicting those things.
So all you're saying is you have to understand the dependent arising and
and emptiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, the non-contradictory nature. That's right. That's all I'm saying. But it's easier to say than actually be able to do, right? Because when you subject any of those things that I just mentioned, including the law of karma, to an ultimate analysis, they fall apart, right? But at the same time, what's fallen apart, what's being eliminated is merely the inherent existence, which was never there in the first place, right?
Mhm.
And so, cause and effect was still functioning because they always were empty of inherent existence. But they don't appear to be empty of inherent existence. Like the thing of cause and effect, it's easy to understand that an effect depends upon a cause, right? You can't have the effect if there's no cause. Everybody understands that. The farmers need to plant the seeds before a crop arises. But what about the cause depends on the effect? Well, that's weird. The cause comes into existence before the effect does. So how can the cause depend upon the effect? Well, it's because something is not a cause unless it produces an effect.
well, and so also something is not a cause unless itself is an effect. Is that right? Yeah. Oh, now you frown.
It's true that all causes are themselves an effect of something, but they're not an effect of themselves.
Yeah.
You agree with that, right?
Yeah, they couldn't be. I think that if that was the case, that would deserve the label inherently existing.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Samkhya school doesn't talk about inherent existence, but they still say that that effects come into existence not as products of their causes, but manifestations of their causes that were not apparent, but still existed in their as the entity of the effect, that the cause and the effect are the same entity. And the reason why they say that is because there's they understand that in order to get a particular result, you have to have a particular cause to produce it. And what makes that cause produce that result? And so there's something that inheres in that cause that allows it to produce the effect. And then they came up with this idea that the entity of the effect exists in the cause, and that during the time of the cause, it is not manifest. And then at the time of the effect, it is manifest. And so that's the first debate in the Madhyamika debate against the against inherent production from self, production from other, production from both, and production without a cause. Yeah, and so and Lama Tsongkhapa, he says, although the two views are close, there's subtle differences. He recommends that we follow the Prasangika view.
Oh, that's easy. Nice of him.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's nice to know that he did it, so, somebody says, well, why are you following that? Because Lama Tsongkhapa recommended it. As well as all of my teachers who happen to follow Lama Tsongkhapa. They also recommend it too.
Okay.
It almost feels like the convention of language is what blocks the understanding of it all.
Yeah, it's true because even when through watching your mind, you can see how your mind is designating these objects. It's thinking of these objects, right? And so the objects that it's thinking of are creations of thought. So they're still in your mind, so to speak. Okay. So that means external from your mind, those objects don't exist. They don't exist. So like the person that's talking right now is only a person because you're thinking that it's a person. And objectively, that person doesn't exist. It's what you're thinking that makes that person come into existence. What you're thinking, what I'm thinking, but and usually we're not watching that process happen. That the thought process makes the objects that it's thinking of appear external, like a dream, for example. Dream objects are created by our mind, but they appear to be, external to us. And, we run towards an object and all these things, they appear external, and yet they're all in our mind. So just like that, in our everyday waking state, we're thinking all of this world, our whole experience, we're thinking it. But it only exists in our mind.
Then it becomes Chitta mantra.
Well, but it's it's depending upon the mind. So
But what is reality then?
well, you could say that
They
what's
say there
real-
is a reality.
what's what's real, you could say, different peoples have said different things about what's reality. Okay. So, Dharmakirti, the famous logician Dharmakirti, he said reality is that which performs a function, and in particular, the function of creating an appearance in the mind of someone who's looking at it. That's reality. He said ultimate truth is impermanent phenomena. That's Dharmakirti. And and the Madhyamika would say reality is the emptiness of inherent existence. And what it comes down to, the big difference between the two is like Dharmakirti, who says reality is what's important. It's what's important. And what is important to people is that things do what they're supposed to do. That's what's important. And like the Madhyamika would say, well, what's important is that things exist in the way they appear to exist. Otherwise, it's an illusion. Like that. And what exists as it appears to exist? They say only the emptiness of inherent existence.
Hmm.
Everything else is a loser, like a dream.
But it's not like a dream because there
Oh,
is
it is
something
like a dream.
there.
What's there?
I mean, and when you're having a dream, there isn't.
It's not the same thing as a dream, but it's like a dream
Like a dream. Okay.
because the objects are created by your mind,
Yeah. Okay.
just
So
like a
where-
dream.
Okay.
So it's when you say it's there, Toby, where is it?
Here, right here. Me, you, Pende, something's there. There's a basis there. In a
But that's a
dream,
difference.
there's
There's a
not,
difference.
in a dream, well, in an idea, there's not a basis either.
That's right. Don't lose that thought. Because next week, we're going to do the 7-point analysis that Chantakirti presented as using the chariot as the example.
Right.
And so when you say that, you know, what's there, this is what you, if you analyze it, then you'll find out that there's nothing there that you thought was there.
All right.
And but if you don't analyze it, then it's all there, but it's only there because of an agreement we have of how to use language.
Yeah. Yeah. I see, but yeah, it's like a dream. It's not the same as a dream.
No, it's not the
That's
same.
that I agree.
Right. Yeah. I don't know about you, but I've had, as a kid, I had dreams that I got this really nice shirt in the dream. And when I got up in the morning, I looked in my closet for it.
Mm.
It was such
Yeah.
a clear dream.
Santa Claus, huh?
So, yeah,
Couldn't create it out of your dream. Too bad.
yeah, my mind wasn't strong enough. Chantakirti apparently milked the picture of a cow.
No, I think that was Shanti Deva.
No, it was Chantakirti.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Milk came from a picture of a cow.
Yeah,
Maybe.
milk.
was
And so, yeah, because he had this responsibility of being a cowherd for the monastery in his younger days. But he was always spacing out because he was trying to figure out emptiness. And so one time when he was spacing out, the cows all, you know, went into the forest. And then the monastery had to send people out to collect the cows back. And so there was a lot of criticism of Chantakirti. And so when he was being criticized, he said, "You people, you're so trivial. If you need milk so badly, here." And he moved
Wow.
the picture of the cow. And so when I asked Geshe-Nawa and Darge, that seems to be a violation of having the correct basis of designation.
Right.
Yeah, and Geshe-Nawa and Darge says it had nothing to do with philosophy. It had to do with the power of his samadhi.
Well, keep trying. One day you'll create that shirt.
Uh, I've managed to create lots of shirts.
Right.
Okay. So we've reached the 8 o'clock hour.
Thank you.
So yeah, I like where this discussion is going because it leads to the next this chapter that we're going to cover, which is the 7-point analysis, the analysis of the chariot. Okay, because all the other chapters, from 18 to 21, we've covered through this discussion in the last 2 weeks.
Good.
I mean, there are some difficult points, but I think the difficulty is just, the translator was required to translate a text in the best language that he could, but he was not allowed to add any commentary to it. And so it becomes difficult sometimes to understand Lama Tsongkhapa.
Mm.
Fortunately, we're not studying his essence of refined gold.
That was the dialogue. Oh, you're talking about the,
Essence of refined gold. It's considered the steel bow of Lama Tsongkhapa.
Mm.
Short, but very difficult to understand. And because Jeffrey Hopkins just passed away on Monday, there's a lot of people on Facebook that have been, reporting different things, and he did a podcast with the director of Wisdom Publications. I think he did it in 2019, and so he talks all about how he got involved in Buddhism, growing up, and different things that he did, and studying that text and the difficulties. And when Lama Tsongkhapa died, the community of his monastery, Ganden, they recited from memory that particular text.
Mhm. Wow.
So that's considered one of his great accomplishments, at least in a scholarly way. All right, so thank you so much.
Thank
Look
you.
forward
you,
to
Ben.
seeing you all the next time. Be safe until then.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. I have
Thank
to
you,
turn.
Pende.
It's my pleasure. And I'm gonna have to look for something here. Stop recording. Oops. Push the wrong button.
Thank you, Pende. Thank you.
A pleasure, Bob.